If you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
Now today on Horse Chats, I've got to say welcome back to Victoria Hardesty. She's written another book, which we're, very happy to hear about, and we'll talk about that book in a moment. But before I do that, I'd just like to remind you that if you'd like to work in the horse industry, but you're not sure where to start, then have a chat to our friendly team at internationalhorsecollege.com. With the wide variety of horse courses from the complete beginner through to the qualified professional, and students in over 20 countries will be able to consider your individual requirements and guide you in the right direction. Simply go to internationalhorsecollege.com to start the conversation. Registered Training Organisation, number 31352. Now, welcome back, Victoria. It's wonderful to hear from you and very good to hear that the good news that you've got another book.
Oh, I'm pretty excited about this one. It was a fun book to write because I actually know the horse that's involved, and so I told his story, and then I blended it with a fictional character and changed the ending, but that's okay. He's alive and well and doing well.
Well, I think that's good. Right from the start, we hear about this horse who wasn't born into particularly good background. But Victoria, just before we even get started, the name of the book. Tell us the name of the book. So people are looking, I can say, right, what's the name of this book?
Okay. The book is Kashmir, and it's Wonder Horse Book number 6.
Perfect. And I think if listeners are thinking about this and haven't read any of the previous books, they sort of run on a little bit, don't they? Because even though this is a different horse, like a new horse, so if you haven't read any of the other books and you want to have this book, then it does bring in a couple of the other characters, but not in such a way that you have to read the other book first. Is that the way it's meant to be? That's the way I got it anyway.
Right. We bring in the other characters from the first 4 books, but you don't have to read their story first because all of my books will begin with the story of the horse.
Yep. The other thing is too, they're all Arabians. Obviously, that's your passion, is what you like to write about. Tell us a little bit about why you've chosen Arabian horses for all of your books.
I chose Arabians because I've fallen in love with the breed when I first got one about almost 36 years ago. They have this unique ability to bond with humans. And I think it goes back to thousands of years of how they were bred and handled. If you think about the Bedouin tribes, they were the ones that captured the first wild horse, and they valued the horse so highly that they would bring the horse right into the tent with their wife and kids. So they had to have an animal that would bond with people, or it wouldn't be safe to do. And any animal that couldn't be brought into the tent to be safe with the children and the wives, was eliminated. So they by selective breeding just got them closer and closer and closer to people. And that's kind of what part of the takeaway from the books are, the way these horses do bond with their people.
One of the things that I do like about your books, Victoria, is that they're written by a horse person. They're not a book that's only for horse people written by a horse person, and they're not a book for people who don't know about horses written by someone who doesn't really know about horses. They're written by a horse person, but they're great read for someone who's just looking for a book to read, something that's a bit interesting. So great idea to just pass the book on. And whereas someone might say, oh, yeah, another horse book, you'd have to say, well, read it because, yes, it's a horse book and, yes, there's learning in it from horses, but it's not just a horse book. So If you were thinking, when you start writing a book, what do you think you'd like your readers to learn from reading one of your books?
Well, one of the primary things that I'd like people to understand about Arabian horses is the fact that they do bond in an incredible way. And secondarily, just how versatile that breed is. They do bloody well everything. If you can think of an activity, you can put an Arabian horse in there. About the only thing I think you might have trouble with is a tractor pull.
Okay.
Because they don't weigh 1,500 pounds, whether, tractor pulling in the United States, they take a very heavy sledge and they have horses hitched to it and they pull it. And then how far you get with pulling is whether you win or not. And I can't see an Arabian doing that. But any other activity, absolutely.
So this book, it's centred around a rodeo, right? Like that sort of atmosphere, and they've got quarter horses and everything else. So you've brought the Arabian horse into this area of the horse world.
Right. It's unusual, probably primarily because of rodeo and its development. Rodeo was originally kind of a macho thing that the cowboys would get together and show off their skill. And these were cowboys that were out on the range, and they were moving cows all day long, up to the high pastures, down to the lower pastures, and then off to the railheads when they sold the cattle. So they were riding a sturdy horse to do that, and it was, a lot of times whatever they could get their hands on. And so they had their skills, the remudas they would travel with. They might each cowboy have 6 horses, none of which were broke per se. So in the morning you'd have to go throw a saddle on something and buck it out to get to work. So that was part of the activity in the rodeo. And so that's why it was predominantly and has been predominantly American quarter horse. But it doesn't mean an Arabian can't go in there and do just as well.
Okay. And you were saying other activities. So not the tractor pulling, but you said racing, barrel racing, obviously, as well as racing. What other areas?
They do jumping, and they've done cross-country. Some cross-country is, you can take a thoroughbred crossed on an Arabian and get a beautiful cross-country horse. They do all the show ring stuff that you can imagine. They do endurance probably better than any other breed. And just anything you can think of. Trail riding, good grief. Can't get a better horse than one that trusts you to go out on trail.
Now, the story ideas themselves. You've talked about this particular horse. Tell us about this particular horse and how you came across it. When you first found out about this particular horse.
That particular horse I came across when I met the new owner and actually realized that horse had been at my facility for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And during that time, during the 2 years that the horse was here, I had a full-time job off the ranch, so I wasn't here to observe that much, because I was an hour to an hour and a half drive away and back 5 days a week. So I was only here on weekends. And I don't personally recall ever seeing the horse out of his stall, but my niece was here at the time. She told me the horse got out of his stall 3 times in the whole 2 years. So, it was a tragedy for the horse. And then, I found out later the entire first part of the book is all true. It all really happened that way, except for where the horse ended up. The horse ended up with a dear friend of mine named Shauna Carta, and nobody else would take him. That was the plain truth. Nobody wanted him because he was unsocialized. He was hard to deal with. He was very, very angry, and he was unmanageable. And she worked for the trainer for 2 years, and today that same horse is in her pocket all the time. They do everything. They travel in groups. They go by themselves. And when she drives to the ranch, she has 2 different cars, her husband's or hers. And that horse knows the sound of the engine, and he's right there with his head over the pipe rail waiting for her because he's heard the car. And it's just marvelous. It's a shame that it took him so long.
And what about the girl that you've introduced in the book? I mean, she has the life that many people would absolutely dream about. First of all, before she had her accident, just everyone would love to have that life. She's born into a horse family, born into horses, has the ideal, first couple of horses. So she has 3 other horses before she meets this horse. Tell us about her and how, because she's the fictional character, but where did you get the idea from her as a fictional character?
I just put together kind of a composite of some of the girls that we had here when we had our own training facility here. I structured her that way, just a little bit of this girl and a little bit of this girl and a little bit of this girl, because we had some wonderful, wonderful young people here. And I just built the ideal young lady. I gave her good values because the kids that came here had good values. And they projected good values. And that's what I really wanted to do with the Katie character, was projecting good values. And I think that's important when young people read a book, to see that sort of thing, something positive.
And she had this life, where she was happy, she was riding, she had her goals, she had an accident, and within the accident there was a bit of a personality change almost, from the head injury. Just tell us a little bit about that bit.
Well, the young lady was driven. She had her life planned for herself. She had already decided what goals she was going to achieve at what age, and what she was going to shoot for every step of the way, and how exactly she was going to get there. And she had worked her plan, and she had done quite well up until, bam, she had an accident, and it just rocked her boat. And she just decided at that point her life was over. But what we're trying to show in this story, that, sometimes a sudden stop is only one stop on the road to success. Your life isn't over because you didn't achieve one goal. And that's kind of the message in this book, is, a lot of young people will get to that point where they miss an objective, they miss a goal, they miss something they want, and then, they give up. Katie did, but Kashmir brought her around and showed her that was just a stop on the road to success.
You've talked in your previous books about heart horse, but in this particular one you talked about a medicine horse. So tell us, just go over like a heart horse, but what's a medicine horse, if you can explain that?
Well, medicine horses are interesting. Every horse has the capacity to be a medicine horse. Not every horse wants to be one. And I've gotten that from several animal communicators that I've talked to. And a medicine horse is one that is like a good therapist. It's the place where you go and dump your problems, and they help you work them out. That's what a medicine horse is. And then conversely, you have medicine people. They don't have to be trained, but they're the kind of people that if you have a problem, you can go sit down and talk with them, and you can work out your own problem because they give you the option, and they sit and listen. Sometimes listening is the best thing you can do.
Sure. The bond, though, that developed between these two, like he started off as a medicine horse, but, the bond that developed between these two, do you find this is more, and I know that you're pro-Arabian horses, but this seems to be a lot more with the Arabian horses than with others, or do you think, that other horses, other breeds, people can develop this bond?
I think other people can develop that with other breeds too. I've known people that have had other breeds, and I just happen to have an affinity for the Arabians, and I know they're probably easier to do. But I've known other people that have a quarter horse or a thoroughbred horse or a warm blood horse that they just are in sync with. And when you're in sync with your horse, then, good things happen.
Victoria, if people, are interested in this book, but not just this book, we bring you on as an author because I think we always like to think that if you're going to work in the horse industry, there's not just one job. There's not. I mean, you've been a barn owner. You've obviously done a lot more before you were an author, and you worked in the horse industry, developing that knowledge before you started to be an author. So we sort of bring you in as an author, and we want to talk to people about your books. But as a career, as an author, people obviously, if they want to write about horses, they obviously have to have the horse knowledge to be able to write about horses. Otherwise, it's going to be, like I said before, one of those horse books where you sort of think, oh, come on, at least you could have got a horse person to go through this book and tell you where it was all wrong. But if someone wants to be an author, how can they do that? What's their first step?
The first step is to be a reader and read a lot. I know for myself, my mother taught me to read at age 3. And I know my first my grandparents always sent me 2 quarters Scotch taped to my birthday card. And my mom took me out to spend my birthday money that year. And the first thing I did was buy a book. I bought Black Beauty. And my mom taught me how to read so I could read my book. And I read, as a youngster, I read every book in the public library that had a horse in it or on it. They were all my favorites, but I read 6 books every 2-3 days from the public library. I would go 3 times a week, and I always got 6 books out, checked them out, and went and read them. I think reading is the primary thing that you have to do if you want to ever be a writer. Then write about what you know. I would be a terrible writer if I was writing about science, because that didn't interest me.
Yeah. And I suppose you don't have the passion then to put into it. It becomes more work rather than, well, this is fun, having all this, creating it and having it all come together.
Yeah, well, and do your research, Don't put terms in you don't understand, and do your research. I know I do. I research every book. Sometimes it's with other people that are active in a particular discipline. I'll talk to them and get their insights before I begin. Sometimes it's, Professor Google is a wonderful thing. He knows a lot.
Yes, for sure. Victoria, I know that if people are interested in reading this book, you've got a discount for them. But if they want to just contact you direct, maybe they want to be an author, maybe they want to ask you something specifically about the book or about Arabian horses, what's the best way to contact you directly?
Probably from Australia. The easiest way is by email or Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I answer people that write to me. I have an author's page under Wonder Horse Books, and I have a page, my personal page is Victoria Hardesty. And my email address is my ranch name, the letter K, letter C, Arabians, the number 1, @msn.com. And I answer everybody. I'm very willing to talk to anybody who's interested in writing or would like to talk to me about my books.
Perfect. And what about this discount? So if people would like to buy one book, but I would tend to say don't just stop at one. If you want to buy one and just, to try it, I think you'll end up coming back and trying the others. But if they'd like to buy a book or buy all of your books, you can offer them a discount. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. Our publisher is sponsoring a program on readersandwritersbookclub.com. It's a subscription. It's a very inexpensive monthly, or you can buy an annual subscription, or you can buy a 5-year. But if you join that, there's 2 things that they get for free. Each one of the writers in a group of 20 or 22 of us write short articles about once a month. But the articles are published every other day. So you can read a variety of articles by different writers that you may be interested in reading their books. That's one thing. Second of all, every book that the writers have are available at a 50% discount. So it's half off for the books. It makes a significant difference if you're buying the set or buying 1 or 2.
Yes. Buying 6 books, well, that's a lot better, isn't it? Yeah, and they can be bought...
way better.
They can be bought in hard copy and a digital copy as well, but they're just not quite on your website yet, are they? But if people would like to find out a bit more about this book, number 6, about Kashmir, you should contact Victoria direct, I think, and she'll be able to talk to you because it's so hot off the press. It's not even on the website yet.
Right. It's due any minute, but it hasn't happened yet because there's so many of them going on. But our books will be available through the leading bookstores in Australia within a month.
Okay, perfect. Okay. And if you can't find it at the leading bookstore, talk to Victoria and say, look, I'm really keen. I'm interested in this book, and I'm interested in all the books. So if you can organise it, that'd be great. This has been wonderful, Victoria. Yeah, and I love getting the books early and going through them and reading them and going, oh wow, this is good, and yeah. And as I said, I do enjoy them.
Oh yeah, the advanced copies are good.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Look, Victoria, thank you for coming on, and I want to be able to say when's your next book coming out, but you sort of need to probably have a bit of a recover over this one and enjoy Christmas and before you start your next book, but certainly stay in touch and keep us up to date with what you're doing.
Actually, heavens no, I'm about 2/3 done with the next one.
Very well done.
I hope to have that one done and released sometime in, stretching it maybe March. I'm almost done with the book. This one's a pretty exciting one too. It's about a black Arabian mare named Raven.
Okay. I'm looking forward to reading that and talking to you about that as well. So, if people are interested in Victoria's books, go out, get one or get all of them now. And as I said, go through readersandwritersbookclub.com. Those details will be on Horse Chats, as along with all of Victoria's chats. And just go there, search for Victoria, search for Hardesty, or, I think even search for Arabians and you'll find the details there. Okay, so thanks again, Victoria, for coming on, having a chat, telling us all about your latest book, and I look forward to catching up with you in March.
I'm excited about it too. I like this next one as well. So
wonderful. All right, looking forward to hearing about Raven.
Oh, yes. She's spectacular.
Okay, perfect. All right, we'll talk to you soon then. Bye-bye.
All right, very good. Thank you for calling.
If you've enjoyed this chat, then please comment, rate and subscribe. If you'd like any changes or recommendations for guests, then please contact us through horsechats.com. And while you're online, have a look at the government-accredited courses at internationalhorsecollege.com. Registered Training Organisation 31352.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.